So yesterday, no, in our last lecture, we did the themes. Okay, we started the themes of the drama, and what are the main themes of this drama? The main themes of this drama are politics and corruption, and the second theme is like love and male authority, guilt and death and suffering, then religion and sin, and class. Okay, so these are the main themes of this drama. So last time we covered politics and corruption, how politics and corruption had rule in that whole drama. Okay, so today we are going to do the second theme of this drama, that is love and male authority. Okay, we are going to see the how these were used in this drama. Okay, so okay. First of all, can you tell me a little bit about like in the last lecture what we covered about politics and corruption? So can you tell me the how politics and corruption had role in the drama?
How politics had role in the last scene or overall?
Hmm.
No, are you
Overall,
at
overall,
over?
yes, overall.
Um, like um, especially with the cardinal when he was like telling Basola to kill people. It
Hmm.
was like he had that authority over him
Yes.
because he was like in power.
Hmm.
Um, all I can think is like how the cardinal was controlling people because he had so much authority.
Yes.
Mm. And
So
that's all I can think.
okay, from cardinals, if you think on every character, so you'll find something there. For example, when you're talking about cardinal, so you can see that how he used his power and authority. Okay, so there we can talk about the politics. We can take politics in another word like power. So he had authority and he misused his power. Okay, second thing, corruption. So he was also corrupt, all the evil things he did. And then you can also, when you see the Ferdinand, so you also find the same things there. Okay, and then corruption also fits on the character of Basola. um, uh, and so in this way, when you are going to see all the characters, so somehow you are going to find few things. So like in the case of Duchess, we can also find like she also used it at some places, she also used her power. Okay, so okay, so now today we are going to move. Okay, love and male authority. Okay, so the Duchess of Malfi explores love and male authority in a traditional society in which women are subjected to the wills of men. The Cardinal's illicit relationship with Julia provides an example of a woman successfully controlled by a man. Julia is depicted according to the stereotype of a fickle woman, while the Cardinal is the constant figure of authority. Webster even uses animal imagery to describe their relationship. The cardinal is metaphorically a falconer who tames Julia, the falcon. Okay. Later, when Julia becomes infatuated with Basola, she begs for him to tell her to do something so that she can prove that she loves him. Clearly, she understands love to be an experience controlled by man. Then, the cardinal and Ferdinand also try to exert their male authority over the duchess. In order to preserve her honor and reputation, supposedly, and to take her fortune, the brothers seek to prevent her from remarrying. They deliver a rehearsed argument in which they characterize marriage as a prison and forbid her from remarrying again, from marrying again. Once she does so behind their backs, They use all of their power to correct the situation and get revenge on her. We should also know that Ferdinand's initial argument for the Duchess to not to marry her, not to marry, has undertones of incest. Okay, so Ferdinand he had some incestuous feelings for his sister. The Duchess, however, inverts the pattern of male authority over love. Refusing to remain a widow, she covertly goes against her brother's order and marries for love. What's more, she does so outside of the normal confines of courtship, in which the man pursues the woman. In part, due to her high birth, she is forced to woo Antonio. This marriage between Antonio and Duchess is figured as a true partnership. The Duchess married Antonio purely out of love, in spite of custom and opposition, as he had no special status or nobility. Throughout the play, the Duchess continues to defy male authority and assert her own agency for love, for the sake of her children, and for her own self-interest. Even facing her own execution, she remains proud and unafraid, and she undercuts the power of the men executing her by ensuring that her body will be cared for by women after her death. Even so, the Duchess's final dying thought is that her husband is still alive. This gestures towards the fact that male authority is still powerful, despite the Duchess's assertions of her own power, for which she is being executed. The Duchess then can be seen both as a proud example of a woman exerting her will and a tragic example of society's refusal to relinquish the power of male authority. Okay, so this was the passage from which we knew, and there are a few examples. They have given the examples of almost all of the main characters here, related to how love was shown there, how it had part in this drama, and basically this whole tragedy or the story, uh, it just revolves around that one theme, that is love, because she loved Antonio and she married him, so that's why that whole tragedy took place. And then male authority, we can see the how Ferdinand and Cardinal, they used their power, their authority as being dominant because of being male. And then the role of Basola with Julia, and also the role of Cardinal with Julia. Okay, then okay, so then is guilt, death, and suffering, how these are the theme of this drama. So okay, you are going to read this passage. Yes.
Put simply, this play is filled with death and suffering, and the tragedy, the deaths of most of the main characters are pretty much guaranteed, but Webster achieves a spectacular level of horror with the way that characters are killed and the tortures they undergo beforehand. In light of the Duchess being subjected to imprisonment, torture, and execution, it's notable that death itself doesn't frighten her. The Duchess possesses composure and dignity in the moments leading up to her death, even to the point of asking her for violent death in order to put her to sleep. In this way, death is shown as an escape that is preferable to a life of suffering. Death, no matter how gruesome, leads to excellent company in the other world, and it frees the Duchess from the control and torture of her brothers. We can also note that the Duchess's death showcases the play's exploration of the permanence of death as an echo rises from her grave in an attempt to tell Antonia of her fate.
Hmm. Okay. Yes. Yes. Go ahead.
While Ferdinand and the Cardinal are directly responsible for much of the suffering and death in the play, including and beyond what's mentioned above, the suffering they create does not lead to satisfaction or pleasure. Instead, it leads to guilt as well as to more suffering and more death. Ferdinand, for example, begins to regret his actions immediately after seeing that the Duchess has died. He shows signs of guilt right away when he sees the Duchess's body. Soon this guilt progresses so far as to drive him mad.
Hmm.
He acts so strangely that the doctor believes he has the disease of lycanthropia, that he is a werewolf, and at one point he starts attacking his own shadow. He shows himself to be obsessed with the crime of the Duchess's death, saying to himself, strangling is a very quiet death.
Hmm.
Guilt therefore has the power to drive someone insane and ultimately to his death.
Okay. Okay. So, yes. So, as the cardinal is a religious, figure, his guilt, which in a way also leads him to death, is expressed in terms of faith instead of insanity. After killing Julia, he is plagued by guilt. He cries out, "Oh, my conscience," and says that he would pray, but the devil is preventing him. Thus, we see that guilt has the power to stop even a Catholic cardinal from offering prayer. Since he cannot pray, he cannot be forgiven, and he later offers a brief soliloquy in which he explains that he has been thinking about hell, a symptom of his guilty conscience. The association with hell continues, as in his insanity. Ferdinand becomes convinced that his brother is the devil, and he steps the cardinal. Guilt transforms the cardinal into the devil and apparently indicates that he will go to hell. It's among the severe consequences of murder and evil. Finally, Basola is in a unique situation as he is forced into killing and experiences guilt throughout the play. In all of his actions, he feels guilty, but this guilt is overwhelmed by a sense of duty to the Duke. So, everything, whatever. And we saw in the drama, like he was repeating the words, like, "This is not my nature, like, whatever I'm doing, it is against my nature." But he was continuously then doing these all things and he was thinking that he's just fulfilling his duty. So so but his this guilt is overwhelmed by sense of duty to the duke, emphasizing the play's suggestion that guilt or preemptive guilt is not enough to deter murder or bad behavior. Okay. So ultimately, though, guilt and desire for revenge take precedence over duty. Overwhelmed by guilt for the suffering he has caused, Visula seeks to right his wrongs. Since he is guilty, however, he also suffers the fate of the diabolical brothers. Okay, then we are going to see religion and sin. Okay, so how religion and sin, they are part of this drama. Sin and the religious consequences of sin run rampant in the Duchess of Malfi. The tragic forces of the play's major plot line are primarily driven by sin. It is because they are greedy for her fortune and prideful of their noble blood that the cardinal and the duke do not wish the duchess to remarry. Ferdinand also exhibits a strange incestuous desire for his sister, another glaring sin, which leads in part of his horrible treatment of her. Ferdinand's rage, lust, pride, and greed all upset him to the point of deformity, and he shocks the cardinal with the horrible things he talks about doing to punish the duchess. But Ferdinand also believes that his and the cardinal's sins are being avenged by heaven through the duchess. Further, his last lines before dying echoes and reinforce the sentiment that we are punished and suffer fates according to our sins. So these were his lines we saw in the very last scene. Whether we fall by ambition, blood, or lust, like diamonds, we are cut with our own dust. These lines indicate that our own sins and our own actions are responsible for our downfalls. The cardinal is a religious figure. Okay, so cardinal is itself a position. The cardinal is after the pope, and in Christianity pope is the highest authority, the highest figure in Christianity. So after pope, cardinal is the second person. So we can imagine, about his authority and the rank of this person, this cardinal. So he was, with the name of, by the title, so he was a religious figure. But we can see, his role was totally against his that his title. So cardinal is a religious figure, and most of the characters acknowledge the dangers of sin, the devil, and hell. Basola knows, for example, that the devil makes sins look good and calls gracious whatever heaven calls vile. Likewise, the cardinal at one point enters the stage carrying a religious book, and after murdering Julia, he ponders the nature of hell like a scholar and a believer. But despite this knowledge, most figures, especially the evil ones, are not deterred from sinning, even egregiously. Religion, then, is not presented as a force that prevents bad behavior. So, if from here we can see, that religion was not, being the religious figures, religion was not preventing that bad behavior. Rather, they were using the religion because they had that religious position or rank, like the cardinal. He had the title of cardinal, but he was using that authority. He was misusing religion. And Duchess also, at one point, we also saw the, Duchess also, she misused her authority. Like the Duchess, we can note, has a particularly conflicting view of religion. She's able to face death with such poise, in part because she believes that she will meet great people in her next life or in heaven. Her last spoken word is even mercy. But during her life, she implies that certain religious practices or beliefs are mere superstition. When devising a plan for the Duchess to escape, Basola suggests that she pretend to make a sacred pilgrimage. The Duchess thinks it's a good idea, but Crayola says that she should not jest with the religion and that it is better to avoid a fake pilgrimage. The Duchess doesn't take this advice seriously, calling Crayola a superstitious fool. Her brothers, though, recognize this tactic. The cardinal says that she's making religion her riding hood to keep her from attention and trouble. Ferdinand's response is that it damns her. He goes on to say that the more pure she pretends to be, given her devious intentions, the fouler she is actually being. In a strange way, this notion echoes the devil's means of a profanity, which is accomplished by taking what heaven calls bad and making it good, and by inverting or twisting what is most pure and most holy. At the same time, we can note that the cardinal uses, just a minute, okay, cardinal uses his religious influence for immoral purposes. For example, he banishes the Duchess and Antonio in a formal ceremony at a religious shrine, thereby hypocritically doing exactly what he demanded the Duchess for doing, using a religious exercise as a facade for personal gain. So, in a way, every one of them, in one way or the other way, they use the religion as for their personal interests. So, religion in this way then is generally acknowledged but ignored by its characters. So, they all knew the importance of the religion, and the, the titles are the ranks they had, but they all ignored it. Though the stakes of sin and mercy are real and high, and most characters acknowledge the dangers of sin, those sins simply prove too tempting for almost everyone in the play. While Webster sometimes shows religion to be a tool used by the suffering to find comfort, it's more commonly used by the powerful to seize or maintain power, and by the wicked to justify themselves and hide their terrible sins. This is how they all were using, religion for their, um, you know, for their own gains. And then the last thing is class. Okay, so here the Duchess's marriage to Antonio is not just remarkable because he was the pursuer and because she married against her brother's will. It's also remarkable because she married someone of lower class. During their courtship, Antonio is careful not to appear too ambitious, which is considered dangerous for someone in a lower class. Further, in the marriage scene, the Duchess laments the misery of being highborn, which forces her to woo because no one dares to woo her. Such a marriage would have been progressive and scandalous at the time. The significance of this marriage is not lost on Vasola, another one of the play's low-class man with upward mobility. When Basola finds out about the marriage, he is stunned. He asks if, in such an ambitious time, is there really a woman who would marry a man simply for this worth, without all of his wealth and honors? And when she confirms the marriage, Bisola launches into a speech about how praiseworthy the Duchess is for marrying Antonio, saying that she shows that some benefits in the world can still come from merit. The marriage and Basola's reaction to it, when paired with other details, suggests that play's treatment of class in general. First, we can note that Webster himself was not noble born. He was the son of a tailor. Next, we can note that Delio, a minor character and friend of Antonio with whom he shares a social class, speaks the play's opening and closing lines. Yes, this is the thing. We also saw the role of Delio. Delio was also in the very first scene of the drama, and he was the person who closed the drama. While Shakespeare, for example, often gave closing lines to the character of the highest status, Webster inverts this tradition in part to emphasize the fact that most upper class characters have died. Class is shown, on the one hand, to be binding and restricting, as it is one of the reasons the marriage is so scandalous and ends so tragically. But Webster's play also suggests that class is fluid, that figures can rise and fall in status, okay, and that true worth and merit should be given a greater value than birth, wealth, and social status. Okay, so these all were the main themes of this drama. Okay, so now after this lecture, I'm going to send you this link, and so for anything you want to clarify, or anything you want to know, so you can follow this link. Here you can see different things. For example, introduction, from where we started the drama. Okay, so here you can see the introduction. Okay, we had covered these all things, and we all we did these all things at the very beginning, and we talked about plot. But if you also want to read this, so this is you know is summarized here, like plot summary of this drama. Okay, then there is this part, the here summary and analysis. Here you can find one thing. In summary and analysis, they all scenes are given here. So if you go into the first scene, there you can see, this is the summary and this is the analysis. So here, you will find all the scenes, all the acts and the scenes. These all are kind of separated. You can go into any scene, into any act, and you can read it, whatever the confusion you have. So this is the summary of the very first scene here. Okay, so this is the summary of the very first scene. And then if you want to see the analysis on the summary, you can also find the analysis here. So here you can read the analysis of the first scene. So whatever the scene you want to read or anything, you know. Right now we have completed this term, and I hope you will not have any kind of confusion in it. But when you are going to prepare for your exams at the very end of your this whole course, when we are going to do the samples, or when I'm going to give you the assignment, so for any kind of revision you can find, you can follow these all things, okay. And then there are themes. We have covered the themes, okay. Then there are a few of the famous quotes of this drama. You can just read if you want to. And then there are characters, okay, all the main characters are given here. Then there are the symbols which were used in the drama, okay. These were the symbols, the main symbols which are used in the drama. For example, poison, okay. So we are going to see this thing like poison. Here, Antonio introduces the symbol of poison in the play's opening while making a political analogy about the ideal government, which he says should function like a fountain. Okay, do you remember at the very beginning, at the very first scene, we talked about the fountain? So, goodness should flow through the country, but if someone poisons the well, then death and disease will spread. Okay, so he was talking about the government as fountain. And if it is poison, if the government of the head of the government is corrupt, then that corruption will go into the roots of that society. Okay, but that if that fountain is free from any kind of poison, if the monarch or the head of the government is free from these all kind of sins, then that whole society will progress. So from this point forward, poisons serve as tool of the corrupt government and become symbols for corruption itself, for hidden threats and for secrecy. Okay. The cardinal, for example, tells Julia that his secrets are like lingering poisons that would slowly spread through her veins and cause her death. Once she gets the secrets out of him, the cardinal then kills Julia by making her kiss a literary poison book. Okay, this is how, when cardinal, he just warned Julia to not know his secrets, but when she insisted, so she, finally got killed by cardinal. And then there are other symbols. You can go through these all. Then there are the literary. Okay, first we are going to this thing. Okay, these are the quizzes. If you want to do, you can do these quizzes. You just will, like you have to, for example, okay, I'm just going here. For example, act 1 scene 1. Okay, so here you can see this is your first quiz. So in order, if you want to attempt this quiz, you just have to sign in. Okay, you will sign in here, uh, and you will be able to attempt these quizzes. Okay, and then the literary devices. There are different literary devices. Okay, like alliteration, allusions, and these are in very much details, right? So it's on you that whether you are going to follow these all things, or you are just okay. It's just up to you, whether you want to go into detail or you just want to see these all things. So these all are the literary devices of this drama. Okay, so from Monday onwards we are going to do the poetry. And then after completing these all things, we will just do the I will just show you the sample papers of this drama, and we will just do the practical work of this drama. Okay, so everything else is given here, and whatever you want to find, you can find. If you have any confusion, you can ask. Okay, so yes, now your thoughts on this. Yes, have you understood the drama?
Yes, most of
Everything?
it did. Mhm.
Most of it. Okay. So where are you now? When you know you are reading, where have you reached?
You sent the last scene
Yes.
yesterday, and so
Yes.
I read, I think, half of it.
Okay. Okay. So you are going to complete it. Okay.
Yes.
Then
Okay.
from Monday onwards, we are going to start the poetry, right?
Okay. Yes.
Okay. We are going to end our meeting here. So Allah Hafiz. And
Allah Hafiz.
anything if you want to ask, related to this thing, related to drama, so you can ask.
Okay.
Do you
Allah
have
Hafiz.
any, any confusion, anything?
No.
No. All right. Okay. Allah Hafiz.